You know how fast you were going?
What? How fast you were going?
I don't know. 10?
8.
Be advised, this is an explicit podcast. If you're easily offended, get your panties twisted into a knot. Leave now. Run to your safe space. Get your little cloth for your tears. All the opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and his guest and do not reflect the opinions of any local or government agency. All right, welcome everybody back. Today we have a guest, Mr. Eugene Roy. He's retired Chicago PD Chief of Detectives, media commentator and consultant, and he specializes in investigation, public safety, and officer wellness and resilience. He's got like 35 years experience. Mr. Gene, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well, my friend. Thank you for having me here with you.
Well, I'm glad you could join me. It's my honor. I love talking to people with a lot of experience. And you're from a big old giant department, unlike little departments where I'm from. Y'all probably have how many officers did Chicago have? Thousands?
10,000.
10,000 officers.
That's grown from being 12,000 a couple of years ago.
Wow. See, the parish, or well, it would be Yalos County, the parish where I work don't have but 33,000 people in the entire parish. So it's like a third of our population just work for the police department.
Yeah, well, just as a point of comparison, the district I worked in, my first district as a district commander over by Sox Park, had 145,000 residents in about a 9 square mile area.
That is just crazy. I've been Salt Lake City, Utah when I was younger. Worked up there for a little while, not in law enforcement or anything. That's about as big a city as I've ever been to. Well, I've been to Toronto in Canada, but I don't know. I think I enjoy my country life too much for city living.
There's a lot to be said for country life. I'm in 100% agreement with you. My favorite place to relax is the seashore.
Well, I don't have to worry about that. I'm not a big beach person, and my wife has a bird phobia, so that helps me out with the seagulls. We don't have to go to the beach. It's not the beach. It's not the water. It seems it's the sand. I'm not a big sand person, and it seems like you can, if you get sand, you can leave, and 6 months later, you can still find sand in your car. It's like it never goes away.
Yeah, there's no mistake about that. You're absolutely right.
It like never goes away. So when did you start your law enforcement career?
I started my law enforcement career back in 1973 when I was hired by the Illinois State Department of Law Enforcement, which is now the Illinois State Police. And I was what they titled a student worker. And I was a glorified office clerk. I worked afternoons. I started off filing reports, reading index cards, making sure the index cards, the indices as they called them, because there were no computers back then. If you wanted to see if so-and-so was mentioned in a report, you had to go look at an index card. It was like being in a library back in the 70s. So I started off with that. They had a radio dispatcher on afternoons. He left, and that job was just handed off to me, too. They told me, forget about the index cards. Well, we're going to try you out being a radio dispatcher, and that's what I ended up doing. Now, it wasn't dispatching like you see in a traditional big city department where you're answering calls and saying, go here, Mrs. Jones is complaining about the kids playing, or we just got a call from the bank, the alarm's going off, there's 3 suspicious people there. It wasn't like that. It was radio dispatching for an investigatory unit. So they're running a lot of license plates, and then they'd ask for a little extra research, especially when they're doing narcotics, and say, okay, you ran that plate, take a look at the see if you can pull up the identifiers on the last person whose plate came up, and see if he's got any sort of background. What sort of background does he have? So they wanted to be able to tell who they were following. Was it a productive lead to follow, or did they just run across Joe or Jane Citizen? So that's what really sparked my interest in law enforcement. Playing in the big leagues like that, as a 20-year-old kid.
No, I can imagine. The younger, the rookies now, I mean, when you started out in like 70s, I was like 2 years old. So I'm 55 now. So that tells you how long this man has been doing this, like 50 years. Even though when I started as a reserve in 93, and I went full time in 95 as a uniform road deputy. But even back then in the 90s, a lot of these kids now that they don't understand. When I first started, we didn't have computers. We didn't even that cell phones existed, but it was the ones in the big bags and stuff, and it cost like $100 a minute to talk on it. It seemed like
right.
So we didn't have cell phones. We didn't even have portables out where I worked at. So it's like when you got out of your unit, we had a mic clip on outside of the bar light, and you'd leave your window down, which was a manual roll window, was no power window.
Yep.
And we'd hook our mics on the bar light on the outside, just in case something bad happened, and we were luckily able to get back to the unit. You didn't have to get in the car; you could just grab it, and we would turn the PA part on, because your radio would go through the PA, so you could hear your radio when you were outside of your car. And I told people, I told some of these guys now, they were like, I'll hear them, and I forget. They're like, all right, they're like, stand by for another unit before you make entrance. I'm like, what? I was like, you just used to do that because the nearest unit might be 30 or 45 minutes away. We used to do it. So I tell the kids, we had a book. Our map book was a hand-drawn book that they had Xerox, that some dispatcher had drove around and hand-drew roads on there. So you know how accurate that was. There was no GPS and Google Maps and stuff back then.
No, not at all.
We'd have a dispatcher. He'd go, yeah, turn by that tree that was hit by lightning 3 weeks ago by the dead coon on side the road. I'd be like, what? Well, what happened?
Yeah. Well, we laugh about it, but we survived it. But at the same time, a lot of the things you're talking about that you did out in the country, we do the same thing in the city. We wouldn't call out an exact address. We're working on surveillance or something. Say, we're 2 doors down from the house with the red shades over the windows, or, look for the garbage cans. Look for the garbage can without a lid. We're on the other side of the alley from the garbage can that doesn't have a lid. So, it's different, but it's the same. It's the same, but it's different.
My thing would be is y'all have high-rise buildings out there, correct?
Yep, that's for sure.
And so I know you got government, housing and stuff like that. And when you go to those and the elevators didn't work and you had something like on a 15th, 20th floor or something like that, that had to suck.
That's a polite way of putting it. Back then you really didn't need to go to the health club to get your steps in. If you worked in a certain district, like the 18th district, which was not too far from the near north side and not far from the Michigan Avenue in the entertainment district, they had the Cabrini Green homes, which were actually very violent. There were 2 police officers that were actually gunned down in a sniper attack back in the early 70s. They were just sniped, never had a chance, just walking across a field to walk into a building and do a premise check. So there was another district, the 2nd district, which had a 2-mile-long string of 12-story high-rise public housing buildings running along State Street. And again, the elevators, they didn't work as much as they didn't work, and the people who really had a tough time are the firemen, because they would have incinerator chutes. And rather people, if you're in a single family home, you take your garbage out, you've got a garbage can, you go out the garage door, the back door, what have you, and you put your garbage in the garbage can, and that's it. But they just had chutes that would run 10, 12 stories, and people would just throw their garbage in it. And of course, you know what happened? It'd get plugged up. And then when it got plugged up, somebody try and burn it out. The next thing you know, the building's filling with smoke, and the firemen would be there, and the elevator wasn't working, and they're in their heavy turnout gear, their helmets, and they're carrying a big hand pump. And a lot of them got to the point where they would carry old bowling balls. And when they had when the incinerator chutes were plugged up, they would drop the bowling balls from a couple floors up, hoping that the bowling balls would dislodge all the garbage that was burning and take it down to the ground floor where they could put the fire out.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, that was,
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can imagine, because like I said, I feel that I see it. I've never, like I said, I don't know if I could experience. I watch body cam videos now, which I'll tell you this, I don't know if you felt the same way or not. When body cams came out, I was totally against it. And I think it was because I felt like you want to video film everything I do, because if you can't trust me, I shouldn't be doing this job. But then after it come out, because I'm like, I already knew that every profession has some bad people, but 99% of cops are great, selfless people. And I'm like, it ended up working out better for law enforcement, because now everybody can see who the real shitbags are. And it's
exactly.
It's like, and now I'm like all for it. I mean, I think, I don't know why I wasn't recording myself before. I don't know why I was ever against this. This is the best crap they ever came out with, because now it's like everybody can see. It's like, well, the cop did this, and it's like, well, here's the video of it, and it's like, they're like, oh, okay. Well, I mean,
yeah, it's a left-handed blessing. Everybody, there was a lot of resentment against it, and people were always trying to find a way that, the battery died, or it got covered underneath their winter jacket or something like that. But as time went on, the smart coppers saw that, as you pointed out, it helped to clear them of these nonsense, ridiculous, harassing allegations against them.
yeah,
It's actually, like I said, it's a left-handed blessing in disguise.
Because if you're not doing nothing wrong, like I tell anybody, I had a guy not too long ago, they were bitching about, we're getting these new portables. We already have GPS in our, but my motorcycle don't have GPS on it. My unit, I have a unit also, which I have, my unit, I have a Ford F-150 four-wheel drive truck is my police car. And then I also have my Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Yes, we're lucky in some departments. I'm assigned 2 vehicles that are only assigned to me. I drive either my motorcycle or my truck home every day, usually my truck, because I live 40 miles one way from where I work. But yes, we have take-home units, which we're definitely, I'm sure y'all didn't have that in Chicago unless you had rank. So,
Right.
But they put GPS in there, which is, I mean, I don't care. It's like, and then these new portables they're giving us out, they have GPS on them too. And somebody said something, I was like, I don't care. I mean, if you're not doing nothing wrong, you shouldn't care. I don't care. I mean, that could save your life also, because what if you're down and can't answer the radio?
Oh, definitely.
So everything has its ups and downs, and I finally got to the point in my career where I'm like, no, some of this stuff that seems like is being evasive is not actually, if you're not doing nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, it's actually helped. I mean, the only people that, there was obviously a lot of upset stomachs about it when it came out, a lot of controversy, and they're spying on us, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And it's just to screw with us, just to mess with us. But as people went along, they saw the value of it.
I was one of them.
You know, guys have passed out. They've had heart attacks, health issues, or what have you, and they wouldn't know where they're at. They're blacked out. You know, or, you know, sometimes you get in a chase and you're driving your car, you're looking for cross traffic. You're not really looking for the street sign to tell the dispatcher where you're at. You know, we're southbound on Ashland coming up at 35th Street or what have you. That GPS is there, the dispatcher has it, they can call it out. You know, 910 is now southbound on Ashland crossing 35th Street. Cars be on the lookout, and all that. It's actually a good tool. And you know something? If you're out there and, you know, maybe you're taking a long break at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, which maybe you shouldn't be taking a long break at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, it's not like you're getting over on anybody, but, you know, you need to, it's 2026. You know, you need to think about what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Oh, it's very, even for when you first started, I'm sure it's 100% different. But I mean, even when I first started, I tell them, I was like, you know, especially after 9/11, I was like, I had never had so many people buy me lunch and thank me for my job my entire life. I do live in Louisiana's a red state, and we don't have a lot of the stuff y'all have in the big city, especially like when it comes to the protest and the hatreds towards cops. I went to D.C. 2 years ago for Police Week, and I was riding. I had one of the listeners, her and her husband, who happened to be a Maryland cop, come and pick me up and show me around. And we were just driving around, and we were in a person car by. I seen a police car go by, and people were just flipping a cop off. I'm like, why are they flipping that cop off? Oh, that's what they just do. I'm like, he's just driving past. They're like, yep. And I was like, oh, it's like way different out where I live. I mean, we still have like people. Every day thanks us for our service and stuff like that, but it isn't the same at all with the trusting society.
It isn't. There's a lack of respect, and it's been fueled by our government.
That the government
who attempt to gain political power by sowing distrust of the existing functions of our government, whether it's the police, the courts, or whoever. You know, it's all about tearing down our society, tearing down the world that we've built, that our parents built.
Between the news media and the government, I told somebody not long ago, I was like, let me explain something to you. I said, stop listening. I said, it ain't this side against this side. That's what they want. That's what the government wants. That's what the news media wants and all that stuff. I said, because if we too so busy fighting against each other, we don't have our eyes open on what they're doing, because they scared if we all get together, we're going to see what they're doing, and then we're going to take back control because we elect them. So we're allowing all this to happen, and they're keeping the infighting going on so they can do everything else behind our backs.
Oh, sure. You know, if your people that dislike you are just fighting all the time, you know, it's a distraction. You know, people need to realize that there's laws for a reason. The police have been around for centuries. Policing has been around in one form or another ever since people walked this earth.
Yep.
Somebody has to keep order. I mean, you read the Bible, you can find references to it. And, you know, it doesn't do any good to demonize the people that are trying to protect you. They're out there to serve you. Because if you're hassling somebody today, the odds are that sooner or later it's going to flip and you're going to be hassled. Nobody needs to be hassled. You know, it just leads to this violence, and it just leads to tearing apart the fabric of society.
That is so true. Let me ask you this. I know you did this job for so long, but what's one of the funnier calls that you've had that really sticks out in your head, that just, you know, like what the hell moments?
I really can't think of any offhand right now that were funny. I'm sure there's a few, but, you know, Nothing really pops up right now, and can't think of any
Okay.
with you.
There,
There's always something. We're in a position where, in a career where we see people at their worst every day, and you have to take a moment every now and then and remember life is not like that. It's not all bad. It's not all negative, and you need stuff to just lighten your day and get you back to reality. Unfortunately, most of my career was as a detective, so just not a whole lot of funny stuff.
no,
there.
not when you get called stuff like that. Like I was talking about, they had this guy one time they got in a car chase with. Of course, believe it or not, most people, I'm talking to the audience, most people, when you're chasing somebody in a car, most of them will run to areas that they know or to their house. For some reason, people think, I don't know, this isn't kiss chase. When you get to base, you're not safe, okay, and your house is not base. But they'll run to areas they know. Well, this guy was like, he took off. Well, when they got there, he jumped out of his car, and of course, they take off running. Well, all this dude had on was a pair of smiley face boxer underwear on. And he was running to his house, straight to his house, and every step he took, he was crapping all over himself. So the reason he was running, because he was trying not to shit on himself. And it's nasty, but you got a picture, you had a man in big smiley face, yellow boxers running with crap shooting all over the place. It's just like, I don't even think we arrested that dude. I think we just ended up just like,
I was just about to say that. The police always have the discretion to not make an arrest. In the interest of criminal justice and public health. I think you err on the side of public health in that case. I was just thinking of one. I remember one day, get a call to assist somebody, and they had got a couple of guys stopped, and the officer knew that there was a warrant issued for one of the people he was talking to, but it wasn't popping up in the computer. Apparently, it was back at the station. It hadn't been logged into the computer yet. So he said, grabs me off to the side and says, "Hey, do me a favor. We're going to talk to these guys here. We're going to keep them busy. Run back to the station and see if you can find that warrant." Okay, so the guy's starting to get a little hostile now. "Hey, you don't have something, you got to let me go. I got plans, blah, 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 blah," all that. So the guy says, "Why don't you just be cool for a couple minutes? The officer here, we found out I made a mistake, and your warrant has been depleted." "My warrant has been depleted," the guy said. "Yeah, your warrant has been depleted. But in order to properly deplete it, we have to have you sign a depletion release." "A depletion release?" "Yes, sir. So my partner here is going to run back to the station. He's going to pick up the depletion release and bring it back out here, and you're going to sign so you're absolved of all liability for the warrant." So can you give us like 10, 15 minutes? "Oh, okay, since you put it that way, office, that's cool." So I run back to the station. Yeah, there was a computer. The guy had picked it up in court on his way out before he came to work, and it hadn't been entered into the computer yet. So I get the warrant, bring it back out, and I give it to the other officer and said, "Well, I got good news and bad news." I said, "Well, what's the bad news?" He said, "Well, it turns out that the warrant is real. It hasn't been depleted, so you're going to jail." So turn around, put your hands behind your back. So it's all in how you talk to people.
Oh,
And the guy just turned around and said, "You got me there, office. You got me."
oh yeah, I learned that through the years. I used to be a fighter, and I had to learn how to be a talker more. So I'm better at talking now, especially that I'm older, because I don't feel like fighting people like I used to. Before, I didn't mind rolling around in the dirt. Now I'm like, yeah, that's gonna leave a mark. So
Nah, there's no benefit in these days. When you're right, you're wrong. When you're wrong, you're really wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Do what you have to do the way you have to do it, the way you were trained to do it, and it's a different world today.
So you moved up pretty high in the ranks over there.
I've been fortunate. I was blessed, as they would say.
How was it from going to be like a detective more to a commanding situation?
You learn a lot as you go through different stages. And that's one of the good things about being in a big department like Chicago. You have a lot of variety, a lot of different assignments you can move around. I was a detective, and I worked on homicides, primarily homicides. Before that, I was in narcotics and organized crime. I knew how to write search warrants. I knew how to interrogate people, develop CIs and stuff like that. Now, the whole thing with how to develop informants, how to talk to people, how to flip them, came in. It was invaluable in my work as a detective, because when it comes down to detective work, you have to come up with the witnesses. I mean, most murders are. It's very obvious from the word go who the offender is, or who the suspects are. But you have to develop evidence, and the evidence starts with getting somebody to flip and tell you he did it, she did it, she wasn't there, he wasn't there, what have you. You can eliminate suspects, you can focus on who your primary suspects are, and then you can work on getting your evidence. You can work on playing people against each other, making somebody into a witness rather than an offender, and that's good. And in Chicago, after if you were a detective, me and my partner were detectives, we both made sergeant. And, even though we'd been detectives for 5 years, he'd been detective even longer, back in the uniform, back in the patrol, because now you have to learn about supervision and leadership, which are two entirely different topics. You have to learn about that. Now, you use a lot of people like myself, my partner, a couple more of us who came out of Area 4 homicide, made sergeant at the same time. We had those people skills. So we were good at that, but we had to learn the supervisory skills, and we had to learn, the patrol division, get back into that patrol mentality. So that's good, but it's good, but it prepares you for the next step, because the next step after being sergeant is being lieutenant, captain, so forth and so on. So it's good that you have that mix of skills, that mix of experience. I really think that having that combination really helped me, do a good job.
I was just made sergeant. I turned down 2 lieutenant spots at the time because it was going to pull me out of motors, and I'm a motor cop. I was offered detectives one time, a long time ago. I turned it down because, like I said, I've been on a motorcycle for over 20 years now. I'm a dinosaur, 55 still riding. So, and a few more years left. This year's going by hellaciously fast. I can't believe we're already 3 months in. And but I did pass it up. When I was a sergeant, the guys I worked for me did like working for me because I was still out there in the streets with them. I would try to get all my paperwork stuff done that morning, which usually took a few hours, and I'd saddle up and I'd be out there with them. I was just a working sergeant. So
yeah, it's a huge difference between supervision and leadership. They are not the same thing. Supervision is, hey, you need to be here at 8 o'clock. You need to do A, B, C, and D. Mm-hmm. Yeah, make sure uniform's square, so forth and so on. That's setting the boundaries, telling people what's expected of them and how to do it. Leadership is then showing up and saying, okay, guys, I'm here with you. Let's get this done.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference.
Leadership is taking care of your people. And taking care of your people doesn't mean turning a blind eye to them. It also means there's times you got to take them off into that room and hey, you got to have a talk with them one-on-one behind closed doors and straighten people out. But it's for the better because you want them to be better, to be their best. Somebody once asked me as a lieutenant, Lieutenant, what's your job here? What's your function? What are you really trying to do here? And I said, and some of my other colleagues subscribe to the same theory, we're here to get you ready to do our jobs. you're 5 to 10 years behind us. You're the next group of sergeants. You're the next group of lieutenants. We want you to do the job as good as we try to do the job. Take care of your people. Set the standards. Make sure they're followed. But take care of your people.
Everybody, listen, y'all heard what he just said, though. That's a big deal. And they have a lot of supervisors and stuff that don't do it, but a leader will. He said sometimes you have to, when you do have to discipline people underneath you, you take them behind closed doors to do it. You do not berate someone that works for you in front of everybody else. Take them behind closed doors and do it. I hate it. I've worked for people like that. I've worked with people like that. I cannot stand it. When I worked with a group of men, and that's how I treated them. And there was very few times that I did have to discipline them. And one of them, when I had to talk to him one time, and I was fuming. I'm going to tell you right now, this dude had popped off on me on the radio, and I was livid mad. And it took everything in me to, when we stopped, that I didn't jump aboard his ass right then and there, but everybody else was there too. I pulled him off to the side, away from everybody else, where nobody could hear us or see us, and then I lit into his ass. So, but don't belittle other people, because it's not going to help with morale at all. It's not.
No, not at all.
So don't do it. I mean, that's what, when he was talking, that's the first thing. That's what I heard. Pull them to the side, away from everybody. Don't be one of them people. It's like, or they're like, oh, they're all going to be scared of you. Yeah, but they ain't got no respect for you.
Praise in public, punish in private.
Exactly. I'll take that to the grave, which right there, especially if you're coming up and you make rank one day. You remember that stuff. Don't forget where you came from. I've seen a lot of people move up through the ranks. Personally,
unfortunately, there are some people that do forget,
and they forget. Well, you forget that you started, how it was when you were down there. How did you feel when you were at the bottom? They forget about that. Like, well, I used to do it. Yeah, well, you correct. You're correct, Major. You used to work patrol 15 years ago. It's a little bit different now.
Yeah,
stuff changes. So I mean, you got to think about that stuff like that. I'm lucky. I work. To me, I'm lucky. I work for a small department, which everybody knows each other, but you pretty much have seen everybody in the department at one time. Not like the big department, but it's like we were doing a functioning. We had an escort the other day. The sheriff himself happened to be. It was a big function. He happened to be there. We were leaving out with the package, the buses and stuff. We were leaving. He happened to be in front of us. He hops on the radio and says, "Hey guys, would y'all like me to grab this intersection for y'all coming up to?" Well, yeah, fantastic. We had the whole sheriff out there, out of his truck directing traffic for us in the intersection, so we didn't have to hold it. There ain't many departments going to find that the top man, the number one man in charge of that department, going to get out his car and get out there and start directing traffic for you.
That's leadership for you.
So
you're not here to tell you what to do. I'm here because I've done it. I did good at it, and I'm going to show you how to do it and how to be good at it. And I'm going to be here with you.
Oh yeah, we had our major. We had parade season not too long ago. We pulled up with we're escorting this parade. We pull up, the end of the parade, big intersection. Who jumps out there and starts directing this whole intersection? Didn't ask for no help. Didn't tell. Now they had plenty of other cops around there. The major was out there. The major over uniform patrol was out there directing traffic. It's like, you need some help? He's like, nope, got it. He didn't have to do that.
No, he didn't. But I'll tell you that the flip side of that, it's nice to get out of the office and go play every
Yeah, that's what I think. Because I looked at another guy. We were standing by motorcycles. I said, looks like he's having a little too much fun doing that.
Exactly. Exactly.
How long? You've retired from the PD, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've been going for about 10 years now.
And were you like teaching in academies or doing consulting now?
I'm doing a little consulting on investigations and stuff like that. Do some help with do some PI work on occasion. Wherever I can help somebody. I made friends with a number of lawyers down through my career, and they call and they have a question or what's the proper procedure or something like that. Able to help people do research properly, on if they're doing backgrounds on people involved in cases, and especially cases of, personal injury cases and that. What are we looking for? We think that we know this person is not being honest with their claim. How do we rebut it and stuff like that? Able to point them in the right direction and do stuff like that. But the thing that's really, really closest to my heart is I do some work. I helped facilitate a PTSD and wellness seminar for first responders in the metropolitan Chicago area. And it's just a great program. It's federally funded. It's run by the Haymarket Center out of Chicago, which has had a long tradition and history of providing mental health services, not primarily to the indigent, but now they've branched out into providing PTSD services for first responders, police, fire, EMS, dispatchers, corrections. So everybody who's in those fields, you feel stress, and it catches up with you. It can be corrosive. It can cause you minor problems. It can cause you major problems. It's led to suicides. So I've seen too many suicides during my career, my time in law enforcement, and try and get people the help they need, give them strategies so that they don't end up going to see a psychologist because they're dealing with PTSD, or end up put themselves in a hospital, or worse yet, end up an alcoholic, engaged in improper activities, trying to distract themselves from the stress. And that's really my passion right now.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, I'll say anybody, if you see any cops or any first responders, like I said, that includes firemen. My stepson's a fireman. My son-in-law's a fireman. I got another son-in-law. I think him and I think he's still married to my daughter. They had split up, but I don't know. But he's still my son-in-law regardless. I like the dude. He's a paramedic. People don't realize firemen and dispatchers. People don't think about this. Dispatchers are first responders. They have their own type of stress. Can you imagine taking those phone calls and you almost feeling helpless sometimes through hearing that stuff over the phone? But any first responder that tells you after, especially doing 30 years, that they don't have some type of post-traumatic stress, they're either lying or they didn't do nothing in their entire career or take any type of calls.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you come out of the academy and you really haven't seen anything yet unless you've been in the military, and you end up getting a call. You end up going to the morgue. You end up seeing part of the morgue where they've got a bunch of babies stacked up, literally. It was something I saw early on in my career really freaked me out. There was a table there, and it was just dead babies, and stuff like that. You can't unsee that. You can't wash it out of your brain. You can't wash it out of your memory. And how do you deal with it? You
will have nightmares.
You will have nightmares.
You will dream about it. It will wake you up.
Yeah.
I don't have the dreams like I used to have. Like I said, I'm working on 31 years now, but I have a couple ex-wives, and someone tell you, especially when I was just a beat cop working the streets all the time, is I guess would be dreaming about working. I woke up a couple times. I woke up one time. I had my wife at the time in a straight arm bar takedown in the bed trying to arrest her when she woke me up. So I mean,
here's the thing. What happens is we're all tough guys and girls. So what do? We see it. It's in our memories. It's not going anywhere. And we just
You bury it.
pile on. We just pile on. We ignore it. We pretend like it never happened. We're all tough. We're big kids. And you go home and, you've had this long shift. You've seen horrible things. Hey, Dad. Hey, Mom. The kids are being kids. What do? You snap at them or something? You have to learn. You can't just keep, when you pile that stuff up, sooner or later, it's going to come back out.
Oh, yeah.
And you and I have seen it where guys deliberately, we'll stop out for a beer or two, which becomes 4 or 6 afterwards, especially after a bad one. Or I knew of a crew that used to go out on Friday nights, crew of homicide detectives. Every Friday night, they would go to a gambling casino. They would sit in the casino from midnight till 4 or 5 in the morning. Why the casino? Well, first of all, they all wanted to get rich quick, which it never happens. But what happens when you go to a casino?
You drink.
The lights are flashing, the music is playing. It distracts you. So you don't think about the body you just saw. You don't think about that interview with the grieving mother. You don't think about those things. But sooner or later, you have to get them out of your system. You have to defuse them. The other thing is, these young cops, they have to be tough. I don't talk to my wife. I don't talk to my husband. I don't talk to my parents or whoever. You just keep it up. You have to understand, and your spouse, your significant other has to understand the career you're in. And you just have to have some sort of form of communication where you just call and say, you know what, today was a bad day. Just make some dinner for me. I'm going to be kind of quiet. I'm going to go to sleep early tonight or what have you. Or, hey, I'm really not in the mood to go to the Disney movie with the kids tonight. And your spouse, the other significant person in your life, has to be able to understand it and take that. Not that you're slighting them or ignoring them, but you're actually trying to save them from sharing in that trauma that you're still processing.
Oh, yeah. It's like, you come home, your wife or significant other, however it is, and like, well, how's your day? Oh, it was all right. It was a normal day or whatever. Yeah, you ain't gonna tell them. It's like I was on the floor on my knees holding this lady that, just ran over her own kid, stuff like that. What you gonna do? They like most my mom, because it makes me think of my mom too. My mom lived in this, and I guess a lot of people do, because I'll just admit this to everybody. Cops, you can tell me if you agree with me. We don't think like everybody else does in the world. When I walk into a place, still today, I used to be an extremely fun person to be around, believe it or not. Back in my younger days, this job, they don't tell you when you go to academy. They'll teach you all this stuff. They don't tell you that this job is going to mold you in or turn you into almost a complete different person that you started out as. And I don't like going places that have large crowds anymore. I don't, because I can't keep my eye on enough people. It makes me nervous. No, I'm not scared. It just, makes me nervous because I'm trying to move. I'll start trying to position myself where I don't have that many people behind me because, I can't go. My wife finally, she's used to it now, but, we go somewhere, she's like, if we're at a restaurant, she's like, well, you ain't paying attention. I am paying attention to you. You looking, because I'm constantly looking at everybody else. Somebody walking in the door, and it just changes you completely. Than what I don't get to go out and just enjoy myself like anybody else does. Me personally, anyway. I'm not saying all cops are like that, but me personally. So it's
majority.
Like I just don't. It changes you. I look at people different, and stuff like that. And it's like my mom was a very trusting person. She thought, this world was the world was wonderful. I remember we were shopping when she was still alive one time around Christmas. And, we're at the mall and this guy comes up to me, and I see him coming and I'm watching. I'm like, fuck, I hope he don't recognize me. He recognized me. Deputy. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what's up? Well, how you doing? You know, whatever his name was. I ain't smoked crack in 2 weeks. I'm like, well, that's good. I'm proud of my mom's eyes are about to bug out her head. She's like, he walks up, she say, I ain't never seen a crackhead before in real life. I'm like, you see them all the time. You just don't know they're crackheads because she was just like her. I mean, my mom was the type of lady, she got pulled over like half a mile from her house. And, you know, this other cop, he told me, he's like, I pulled your mom over. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I pulled her over. I was like, I asked mom. He's like, I just happened to look at the last name and I asked her, you know, so-and-so son? She's like, mom. She's like, oh yeah, that's my son. He's like, oh, okay, well just slow down. It's like, I said, Mom, why didn't you like say, hey, my son so-and-so? She said, I was speeding. I was just going to take my ticket and go. That's just how she was. I mean, everybody, and I don't look at the world as a nice, beautiful place. I see nothing but bad basically all the time. And that's like, I don't think that'll ever change for me. Even when I retire in a few years, I don't think I'll ever be able to look at everything like everybody else does.
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because the next big change in your life that's coming is retirement. It's around the corner. You know, I don't know what your mandatory retirement age is out there.
I could actually retire right now. I was actually going to retire in January, and I could retire in December. I was going to retire in January. The sheriff decided to give me a significant pay bump, and we have to. Your 3 highest paid years goes to your retirement. So I'm like, it was enough to make me stick around for another 3 years. Right. So
now the important thing you have to do, there's a couple things you have to do. You have to, you know, there's an old saying, I forget who it was, the self-motivation author had a line, begin with the end in mind. What do you want? What's your goal? How are you going to get there? And the goal for, you know, guys and girls in your age bracket, and when I was in your age, is what happens after retirement? The first thing you have to do is provide for your financial security. You know, I don't know if you have a deferred compensation program down there or anything like that. Put every last dollar you can into your deferred compensation.
I'm maxed, and they're matching me maxed right now. I'm getting, put it this way, I'll say this part. I won't tell anybody how much I make, but for Louisiana area, I'll put it this way, I'm well above the medium income. And then when I retire with that, and if I do drop, I'll have right at 500 in lump plus my full 100% retirement, and my medical's paid for me. So if y'all think about that in long run, I want to be a cop or something like that. You know what? You might not start out. When I first started doing this job in 1995, I was getting paid. I made $895 a month before taxes. Okay. I would never imagine 30 years from then that I would be making what I make now. You don't start out making money. You build yourself up to it. But when you get to this part in your career, like I am, I make a very well living. Okay. I'm not rich. But I'm not paycheck to paycheck. Okay. I'm comfortable. I'm lucky. I'm not say lucky. My parents passed away. My house and land's paid for. I have no, I don't have none of that. I've made sure, all our vehicles are paid for. I mean, me and my wife have no bills. You have to do that, like he's saying.
You have to.
So I had a plan. I was going to retire at 30 years. I'd have been retired, which I'd have been fine financially. A little bit extra. I was only going to be 55. I'm 55 right now. I can work until I'm 57. I mean, it's not that far down the road. I got basically 2.5 years left now. And it's like, so, I mean, but financially, yes. Being a first responder, I say the benefits outweigh, like I said, some of these big, like down here, chemical plants. You can go make a lot of money in chemical plants. You may get laid off, though, but it's like the benefits once you retire aren't there. Not the benefits like I end up with.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's good that you're doing that, and more of the cops in your cops and firefighters and EMTs too. Let's lump them. We're all first responders. They just they don't pay attention to that. They're used to, if they want to go on a trip or something, well, I'm going to get some overtime. I'm going to pick up, so-and-so was sick. I'm going to pick up some of his days. The sergeant says I could have some of his days and for overtime and that. That's a Band-Aid. You need to have your long-term financial stability taken care of. The biggest thing, though, is, and I'm going to tell you something, you don't realize it, we're a brotherhood, sisterhood, fraternity, whatever you want to call it, but the day you sit on your computer or sign that form and says, I'm retired, and you hit that button or you turn in that piece of paper, you're no longer a member of the club.
No.
You're retired.
Yep.
You are retired. And the farewells, it's a long farewell. You have retirement party and you're still invited and so forth and so on. But then somebody moved up to take your spot. Mm-hmm. And now he or she is the new best thing.
Yep.
And so those invitations to go out for dinner or breakfast or what have you, they start to trickle off. And sooner or later, you're out here in left field, and so you have to be prepared for that. You have to be prepared, and most of us, one of the problems we've made for ourselves is who have we associated with?
Only cops.
Other cops. And now all of a sudden, just because that artificial change, nothing in your life has changed except your job. But now, because you're no longer part of the fraternity, you just.
So there's a guy I worked with in motors.
Oh, yeah. He's a good guy. Yeah, I used to remember. Yeah. But you're not there. The fraternity is gone. And, you get into your 60s and your 70s, and that's the time you really need that fraternity. That's when things start going wrong physically. That's when other problems start popping up. You need that support system, and I wish our culture was different about that. I wish that we didn't just turn our backs on the retirees the way that we do. It's really sad. Right now in Chicago, there's 14,000 retirees, but only 10,000 active cops. It's a staggering number. You just have to think about it. But, just a lot of cops aren't prepared for that. They are just not prepared for that. They feel that the fraternities let them down. So what you have to do is you have to create a new role for yourself. Whether it's, you do a part-time job or you pick up a security job or something like that, or maybe if you have a farm, you just spend your time farming or something. You have to develop it. You have to develop yourself. You just can't sit back and dream about the good old days. Good old days are gone.
Now you'll sit there and die on your couch lonely.
Exactly. And that shouldn't be the end for any of us.
No.
I mean, the good Lord will take us when he wants us, how he wants to take us, but none of us should just die of loneliness and old age on the couch.
That's why you see that. To me, that's why I see so many people. I've seen a lot of them retired guys come back doing part-time stuff or going here and going. I mean, I have a buddy of mine, Jerry. He was a motorcycle guy. This dude survived. This guy survived one crash that was so hellacious. He was actually the medical magazine that the doctor that saved his life did, because he shouldn't have survived through it. Probably 50% of his face is titanium now. This man hit a car right on the T-post, which is where the doors meet, one of the strongest parts of the car. He hit this with his face when his car pulled out. He hit the motorcycle hit. He went over there. He hit that car with his face. It broke every single bone in his face. Like I said, I was there that day. I know this man's married to my cousin. I know him, and I didn't reckon that when me and my other partner we started. He wasn't where he's supposed to be, and he wouldn't answer his radio. And it's a sinking feeling you get in your stomach. And we turned around, and when you see your friend laying there on the concrete and you can't recognize him because his face is smashed up so bad and he's trying to stand up. Like I said, but he's retired now. He didn't medically. This man, when he healed up, he got back on a motorcycle. Believe it or not. And
you have to come back. You have to get back up on that horse that threw you before. If nothing else, just to prove it to yourself that you can do it. But you don't have to keep riding that horse forever.
no, he's retired. He's retired now. He's pushing. I think he's about almost 70 now, probably, or his late 60s, and he's been retired for a while, about 10 years, I say, and I make sure I call him at least once a week. He says it's me, and out of all these people, it's me and one other guy that call and talk to him. Two of us out of hundreds of people. Two of us. So
you've always got that inner circle, and your ride or die crew, and then as you go progressively outward from that, the people are going to be there when the times are good. People are going to be there when they're told to be there. You just have to make your own way, but you have to maintain those relationships.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like, so guys out there that may be in law enforcement listening, remember that. You're not gonna. You remember that you're gonna have, especially if you're younger, people are gonna retire, and if you were friends with them there, you don't have to retire. You ain't got to talk to them constantly. At least call them a couple times a month to check on them. You don't know what kind of difference that'll make to that person, because remember, one day you're gonna be the one sitting at retired, and you're gonna be thinking, I wonder why nobody cares to even check on me.
You have to remember the only one who knows what battles you're fighting are yourself. Nobody else knows what battles you're fighting, so you need to talk to them, help yourself with your battles, and help them with their battles.
Yeah. We're coming up on an hour. Look, I appreciate you. I would love to have you back. I can talk about this stuff. I'm a jabbermouth, as y'all know already. Mr. Gene here has a lot of good information, a lot of stuff like that. So if he'll come back, I'd gladly have him back.
I'd be honored.
Just don't hang up yet. I'm just gonna tell everybody, as I tell you, appreciate y'all coming, listening, share it with your friends, especially episodes like this. Y'all know Wednesdays we talk about the new stuff. I talk crazy. I say all kind of crazy stuff. Everybody's like, how do you even think of that? You don't want to know how my mind works. It's a scary place. Stuff like this, I love being serious also. I do have a serious side. So everybody remember to watch your back, watch your partner's back. Remember, we're not sheepdogs around here. We're lions, okay? And everybody stay safe. See y'all soon.